Greetings. Today we're going to talk about the late Republic of Rome. This part of Rome's history is important because Rome is probably most famous for their military conquest. The early part of their history involves Rome, and as I said before, what's most mind-boggling is how this small band of local tribespeople would eventually go on to conquer and create the greatest empire that was known in mankind. One of the reasons why Rome was so successful with their military is because of the way that they organized their army. They used what was called legions, which is a group of 6,000 soldiers broken up into centurions, groups of 100. So similar to the cartoon Voltron, if you're familiar with it, these groups could fight as small independent units, or they could form together to create one large juggernaut. Over time, as Rome's army began to get stronger and conquer more land, they needed to grow more food, and they just didn't quite have enough land in their own areas, so they had to start conquering other local areas as well in order to have more land to grow more food to feed their growing armies and their growing country. So as Rome wanted to expand out into new territory, they engaged in a series of wars known as the Punic Wars. The very first were with a group of Africans, and the word Punic is Latin for Phoenician, and we learned about the Phoenicians earlier in history. When Rome went to war with them, they first started to go to war over the island of Sicily. When Rome was successful, they pushed their way into North Africa, conquering that land as well. The Romans didn't have complete success with this, however. In 218 BC, one of the African generals of great notoriety and still one of the most famous, his name was Hannibal, and he was known as a general of brilliance because he used much smaller armies and his war elephants to defeat Rome in many circumstances. He was unable to take the city of Rome, and he was eventually defeated, and his land of Carthage was destroyed by Rome. However, his military tactics allowed him to be successful where other generals were not, at least for a short period of time. Once Hannibal was defeated, the Romans were able to take control of Sicily, Spain, North Africa, many parts of the Mediterranean, and it was really only a matter of time before Rome could launch heavy offensives into most of the known world at the time. Now, while Rome may have had some great early success with their military conquest, they still had internal problems. Two brothers in particular were Tiberius and Gaius. And these two brothers were officials who served on tribunes, and they wanted to try to improve the lifestyle of the poor farmers of Rome. And of course, the plebeians supported this, the patricians didn't. Both were eventually killed for their actions, and it was after this point in time that the people of the government of Rome realized that they could use violence in order to get what they wanted politically. This would later happen with one politician named Lucius Cornelius Sulla, who basically was responsible for leading a civil war that happened in Rome. And after the civil war was over, Lucius became a dictator, and that's what started part of Rome's downside. One of these in particular events was when a man named Lucius Sulla, after some political fighting, started a civil war in Rome. He eventually became a dictator and had all of his enemies put to death and was very tyrannical. Another example is after Sulla died was a former slave gladiator named Spartacus, who actually incited another civil war and nearly successfully had several successful battles, rounded up lots of former gladiators, turned them into soldiers, and nearly escaped out of Rome. They were eventually, caught and killed, but Rome, it wasn't an easy path for their destiny to become the world's greatest empire. They had not only fighting abroad, but many fights internally as well.